What's up, everyone? Happy, whatever day it is. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever that is to you. It is the 10th episode of the Boundless Media yet to do and yet to establish name. But we're talking about lead gen. Have a very interesting topic today. As always, it's Nico the Brain and Justine Anderson, Larissa Lemaster, and you as well. The amazing guest that we have here. Team, what are we talking about today?
Well, I thought for our 10th episode, we would do something fun and answer some frequently asked questions that people have sent to us. And, we've gathered what people want to know. So we're just going to kind of go through these and see how we can share our expertise.
Love it. Justine, kick us
Yeah.
off.
Okay. So, someone asked, do you ever worry that cold email outreach will flag or cause their email account to get blacklisted or banned?
Ooh, fantastic question.
If you
And
do it wrong, it can do that.
don't that isn't Spark Notes. This is the textbook we're gonna go in. But absolutely, here's the thing. Yes, 100% the domains that you do for cold outreach are going to get blacklisted. They're going to get in trouble. They're gonna get shut down. And now that I have a whole doomsday speech prepared, realistically, when you're doing outbound, whether it's on Gmail, Outlook, whatever that is, if you're doing it, eventually the account will become less prosperous than it is today. So you have this 2-week ramp up period where you're not really sending any outbound emails, and you're going to get 90, 95, maybe 100% open rates. Over time, as you continue to still warm up the domain, but send cold outbound, you're going to start seeing diminishing returns. Now, there's ways to alleviate that by having maybe 2 domains or 3 domains or 4 domains that you cycle through. But eventually, if you're just doing all cold outbound from one domain, it's eventually going to get flagged by too many accounts that call it spam. Now, could that be a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years? I don't know. But if you go into it with the mindset that these accounts are going to get blacklisted at one point, then you can start preparing for the worst case scenario.
So to that point, yes, if you are doing cold outbound on an email specifically, that email will likely get blacklisted or banned or just basically marked as spam. So there are a couple ways you can prolong the life of your email domains, and that would be not sending mass outreach. So not sending like 700 emails from a single domain in a day, for example. You probably want to try to keep it under like 200-ish a week, just to preserve the domain itself. Also, you can do everything in your power to establish the legitimacy of the domain between whoever your like domain login places. So, Gmail, Outlook, whatever. You can do everything you can to establish legitimacy there. So that would be like sending and receiving emails, for example, like legitimate emails. You want to make sure that they're not all going out, that you're also getting emails in that inbox. That will help just establish it as like a legitimate inbox that you can actually use and send stuff from. Nico also mentioned like warming up those accounts. So there's a lot of services online. If you look up email warmer, you'll be able to find a lot of them. Basically what they do is they send emails back and forth between all of the emails in their collective like service, basically. So those are a couple ways you can prolong the life of your email domain, but it is best to have a couple on hand because over time it will probably die and you'll have to lay them to rest and move on. That's just kind of part of it.
Part of the game.
Does personalization help like prolong that life of that domain? Like, because we're sending out personalized messages, right? More people are probably responding. So I'm assuming that kind of helps not like the account not get flagged as quickly. Is that
Yes and
of
no?
course.
The answer is yes and no. And that's why I have to jump in because I know where Larissa's going. She's like, of course. The answer is no.
It does help. It does help.
Maybe, but probably not as much as you think. Because if you're sending personalized outreach to the wrong people or to blacklisted or domains that don't work, that's not going to matter. It doesn't, the personalization is not going to change the outcome of a campaign as much as the strategy behind it and the way that you find these contacts, what you're saying to them specifically. So personalization potentially could help, but strategy is much more important than of a metric of success on saving those domains. Because I send, even today, I created a perfect 20% list. The websites were legit. They're posting on social. And out of those 20, only 6 came back as good to go verified domains. But those 20 were awesome. These are people like that I've seen online, all the stuff. But when you do the backend system checking, there's 3 that were completely do not contact. There were 6, or what was the rest of them? Can't even do math. 3, 6, 11 came back like they don't know. So those are like red flags to me. Like I don't want to go after those. So only 6 verified came back. And personalization
That's a good point.
Could have been amazing to those, but they're not verified.
That is a good point. Okay, one other thing you can do to prolong the life of your domain, reach out to legitimate people and legitimate emails. So if you are sending let's say 10 emails out and 8 of them come back as bounced, that actually does harm your domain slightly. And the more you do that, the worse it is. So that's a good point. Yes, personalization helps, with a little asterisk that the strategy is really important. Who you reach out to is really important. How you're customizing those messages is really important.
Yeah, and those processes for verifying that, I assume, that just helps immensely.
Yes. True.
Absolutely.
So do you guys want to talk about kind of that process that you go into, verifying these prospects, where you find their emails? Maybe someone asked, where do
there's a lot of
outbound
services
marketing-
online. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like it depends on there's a lot of really good ones you can look at. Unbounce is a pretty popular one. There's a ton of these online that you can just find, where run your list through one of those first, which will come back with all of the it'll tell you which of the emails it couldn't verify. It couldn't verify as legitimate emails. But there's a lot of those. There's a lot of alternatives.
Yeah, and I think to Justine's point is like it really starts with like who you're going after, right? And once you know who you're going after, then there's a ton of databases to find these individuals. But if you're going to be very let's get very tactical here, super simple. Like go find people who are going to conferences around the specific product or like outcome that your niche wants, i.e., if you want to go after dentists, right? And there's a dental marketing conference, use that. And then there's databases like Apollo, Lead Finder. There's a ton of them that you can insert those people inside of to get their contact info. But it's, again, not really about the database. It's about like who you're specifically going after and what business insights are they showing that they're actually interested for the solution that you have. And again, there's only 2 solutions out there: make people money or save them money.
Someone asked, how can I generate potential customer leads for my interior design startup? So I don't know if you have a specific answer for like interior design or just general, but that was a question someone asked.
Yeah, interior design is more B2C focused. So it's very hard to find like the end, unless it's like really B2B and you're targeting like companies that are home builders or something that might use that for staging, or real estate companies that could be staging. But interior design is much more B2C focused, and like traditional advertisements, PPC, strong SEO, or even like Facebook, Instagram ads might be a great way there. Larissa, I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, so it is interesting because it really does depend like who the ideal customer is. If you want to work with individuals and their homes, there's a lot of good ways that you can maybe build partnerships that would build you ideally like a strong lead base. So for example, being really good friends with a lot of real estate agents or people like in the housing space, people helping get houses. And ideally you would want to focus on building those partnerships with real estate agents who focus Probably on people with a higher price point. Interior design isn't usually something your average person is going to pay for unless like they can afford it. So a good metric for you there would be like, what's the average like housing price that they can afford your interior design services and they want them? And then, find real estate agents who are pros in that particular price range. And anything really in the housing industry. If your target is businesses and like individual like companies, the approach could be similar, but it could also be different. You'd probably want to really, again, figure out who is the right person for you. So good targets there could potentially be anybody in a company that's focused on like potentially like employee well-being or something like that, that maybe you can spin that. I don't know exactly what the best like title to reach out to would be, but when it comes to interior design, like there's a few things you're going to need to do no matter what. And I would definitely focus most marketing attention there until you have a really strong base. And that would be like, you need to have pretty strong socials. Like there's not really much way around that. You need to have really good content. You need to produce probably a fair amount of content, and really show like how people can do any type of interior design and really show your work, and also will help you build like a strong portfolio. But interior design is an interesting space because like Nico said, it's both B2B and B2C. It just depends on who you're targeting.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of targeting, someone asked, how big or small should my niche be? So when you're trying to figure out that target audience, how big or small like should you be creating of a niche?
I mean, there's niches, like there's a niche like Boundless goes after marketing agencies, right? And then I mean there's like a million of those, right? And then we separate those by like, do you make money or save money? And usually that cuts in half. And then it's like, do you have, are you selling a service that we don't think today's consumers want? And that might be cut in half again. That's like, now we're down from 1 million down to 250,000. And then, I mean, are they in the, do they have a VP of something? Maybe that's what we care about. That might cut it down to 10,000. So it's hard on a like without knowing specifics, but really it's like start with the wider audience, like have a kind of de facto niche, right? And then create subsets of that and then test. Maybe if they have MailChimp versus Salesforce, they're much more likely to respond, book a call, and make a sale. And that's something that Larissa's been really pushing me to figure out, is like really like tying in all our data so that you have this very clear image of what's happening.
Yeah, it's also just really hard to say, again, without knowing specifics. It's impossible to ultimately answer this question. Your niche size should really like be your addressable market. So we like to start with like, who's your perfect client? Write down all of those demographics and psychographics and anything associated with like how you identify that perfect client. And that can be your niche. I mean, it can be a little bit more broad than that, but like those are the people you want to target first. Your niche probably is more broad. There's also just some industries where there's really not that many people in your space. So, an example is a former client of ours. They targeted like a very specific scientific individual who was responsible for like purchasing these like multi-million-dollar packages. There's not that many of those, to be honest. I mean, in the world, there's maybe like a couple thousand, maybe. But again, it just really depends on like who you are, what you do. But start with like your ideal client, and you can broaden or make it smaller from there. And to Nico's point, definitely test like what works better and who is more responsive.
Absolutely.
Next question. Where should I be doing lead gen? Should I be doing it on email or social, like LinkedIn, say? Kind of like what industries have performed best where, maybe, is a good question.
Yeah, and I think that's really around knowing where you'll have the highest likelihood of success. So for instance, if you're really thinking about going after, let's say, traditional B2B companies, and it's a wide market, right? Then you might want to consider doing much more of a LinkedIn based focus. Specifically, let's say you're going after recruiters. Most recruiters are on LinkedIn, so that might be a phenomenal channel to target them. Now, let's say you're going after a newer e-com based business that is relatively, they're in the hyper growth stage. Email might be a much greater stage for them because they haven't maybe invested the time into like a digital presence. So it really depends. For us, I'm much more excited about email, to be honest, but kind of a combination of both LinkedIn and email together. Those are the ones that work the best.
Yeah, and I'll add another little asterisk there. As you're doing your niche and customer research, you should also be noting where these people are. So the best online channel for lead generation is the one that your prospects are already on. If you message them on a platform, maybe they even have an account. If you reach out to them there and it's not a platform they use, like if somebody messages me on like Nextdoor or something random like that, no way am I responding to it. It doesn't matter because I'm never going to check it. Like I would never in my whole existence ever check my Nextdoor messages. So like that would be a horrible channel for lead gen, for example, depending on who you are and what you do. But as you're doing your niche research, the best online channel for generating leads in marketing is absolutely going to be the one your customers are already on and actively using and engaged on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but you want to go where the dollars are. And if the dollars make sense, oh, classic Nico, makes sense on a specific channel, then that's the one that you want to invest into.
Awesome.
You make more than sense. Yeah.
Definitely. What like general tips do you have right now that you've been really focusing on recently that you've been telling all of our clients? Just any like tips that you've been loving recently?
I mean, for me, most of my time has been spent on the Alex Hormozzi's $100 million offer framework. So, I mean, I've really beat that that process down to like the very last of interest for the team. But really, I don't see success without having a solid framework, a solid offer that the market wants, with bonuses that make sense and gets them excited, and a guarantee of some form or fashion to eliminate the risk. Really, like if you don't have a fantastic offer, it's so hard to stand out nowadays. And I mean, listen, I'll be candid, like we're running a very specific test campaign. I ran it yesterday without the like kind of optimized offer, and that was a 3% response rate. And today I ran the same one, and we're seeing like closer to a 6 and 7%. That's double, right? And really just with the optimized offer, same market, same framework and the template, same domains, but just the offer so optimized. And it's crazy to see. It's frankly crazy to see. So I mean, that's the biggest tip I will have, is like focus on understanding your niche, creating an offer that makes sense to them, and actually fulfilling on those.
This is where we see a lot of the dichotomy of like what Nico thinks about just like, you know, everything versus how I think about stuff. And so our answers are going to really show where our mindsets are very different. Absolutely. I 100% agree with everything Nico said. That's great advice. My advice is probably a little bit more general. And also keep in mind, as I give this advice, I'm our COO, so I'm very ops focused. My general advice is, if you don't have to do it and a robot can do it, have a robot do it. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be easier. It's going to be cheaper. Once you figure it out, have a robot do it. We have ourselves, I think every single month we automate about 75,000 tasks. It's way easier and way cheaper to have robots do that than to have us do those 75,000 tasks. So that would be like one of my really I would say the most important thing I think a lot of people can do, and it also, as you automate stuff, you figure the process out and it helps you understand where you need to be a little bit more efficient and where you don't, and all these other pieces. To that point, I will also say, like, data is incredibly valuable. Everything you do, you should be able to track the outcome of that. So you should be able to see the direct benefit to your business of every single thing you do. And ideally that's trackable. So, you know, what we were talking about earlier, like diminishing returns of emails. Well, we know this because we have a lot of data that shows us over time, your emails, the domain itself is less effective. We know that because we have a lot of data to show us that. And you know, everything that comes along with those pieces. So that would be definitely like key number 2, I guess. Have data and be able to track all your outcomes of everything and work towards incremental progress. You are probably not going to get it's not going to be a home run on swing one, right? Like every week you should just be trying to get that incremental progress. So if you have a 10% open this week, you're shooting for an 11% open next week. You're not shooting for a 60%, although that would be awesome. That would be really cool, but make that small incremental progress.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's very counterintuitive to my head, which is sometimes like go, big, fast, move it. But data driven is a lot better.
Yeah, I like how you guys are on 2 different answers, but like they work together to, you know, create successful everything. So
yeah, it's just you can see the difference between the CEO brain versus the COO brain.
Yeah. So those are all the questions I had. If people want more specific answers to their questions that's, you know, more tailored to their company, where can they reach you, Nico?
Oh, it's such a great point. Well, our new website is launching very soon, but you can go to getboundlessmedia.com. If you want to talk to me directly, it's nico@getboundlessmedia.com. Happy to give you tips, pointers. We're not for everyone. We're a very specific type of client that we really can help, and we want to stick to that. So worst case scenario, I can refer you out. I can give you some tips. You probably could do it yourself. We have a ton of content, whether on the podcast, YouTube, blogs, social. We're here to help you guys get better clients, close them, and make more money. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. Thank you so much for listening to episode 10. You guys have been awesome. We've been boundless, and we'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Peace.